Amazing. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Today, we are doing a student experience panel on making friends and creating support networks at the University of Exeter. So this evening, you'll hear from current students talking about their experience of making friends and creating support networks throughout their university degree. And we'll have a few questions that you can hear, and then you have an opportunity yourself to ask questions to these current students. A few housekeeping things before we get going. Um, as I just said, this session is being recorded. So this is for safeguarding reasons, but also so that you can watch it back later. And we'll provide a link for that at the end where you can get all of the previous recordings. And as you were coming in, I mentioned changing your screen names. So if I can ask those of you who haven't already, if you just change your screen name to your first name and the first letter of your last name, that's brilliant. Throughout the evening, please do ask questions using the chat function. Obviously, we'll only be able to answer questions for those of you watching this live, but put questions in the chat as we go, and we will make those a priority to answer. And some of the topics that we might come up against are very personal, so just be mindful of the questions you're asking in the chat, and everyone's experiences are different. If we could touch upon any topics that have affected you today, you're more than welcome to contact Sarah Safeguarding at exeter.ac.uk, the email on the screen there, and they will support you with any issues that you have come across. Before we get straight into asking questions to the students that we've got this evening, I want to highlight some support that we have at the University of Exeter. So a lot of universities will have a students' union. We're very lucky. We have two different unions. One is in Penryn and one is on the Streatham campus. The students' union is in Penryn and the Exeter Guild is in Streatham. And both have a variety of clubs and societies and have events all year round that you can get involved with. So whether you're interested in a very niche sport or classical singing or any of the things on the screen there, it's a very slim pick of what there is. But there's definitely a group for you to join, and I'm sure it will come up this evening. Definitely have a look on their websites if you're thinking of studying with Exeter and seeing what is available for you. We also have other groups who provide opportunities to get to know other people and make friends. So we also have our residence life groups, aka Res Life. They're another great way to get support from your university or Exeter with university life. So they put on events where you can get involved in going out into the community, taking part in fun things. There's a picture of them there, they going surfing and things like that. So they're there for people, students living in student accommodation on campus. Living away from home can be really scary for the first time, so getting the support you need shouldn't be. So that's another fun way to get support at Exeter. On a more serious note, we do have wellbeing support offered at all of our campuses. We do have different service providers across our campuses, but like I said, they're provided across campuses and you can access free guidance, advice, and support. They offer a different range of ways. So this might be through putting you on a course, having counselling, helping you get to sessions, whether it be with student union events or things like that. And we're very lucky that we have different ways that you can access this support, whether it's in-person drop-ins or via phones, phone calls and emails and things like that. Another element is your academic tutor. At university, obviously, there's lots of organic ways to make friends in those social settings, but also in your academic life. So your academic tutor is able to guide you to the right wellbeing support, which we also might touch upon a bit later as well. Another opportunity that we have is the peer support scheme. So the peer support scheme pairs first year undergraduate students, with second year to final year students across all sorts of disciplines. There's lots and lots of schemes, so I do recommend checking out the website and seeing if there's any that align to you personally or best. So for example, on screen there are just a few. You've got the mature student, disabled student, carer, care leaver, and estranged peer mentoring. They're in different colours, and I'll explain why in a moment. And then we've got others like the MFL PAL, Global Chums, and all sorts of things. So The reason those three are in a different color is because these strands pair you with a tutor before you arrive in September. So you sign up when you've got your offer confirmed, and you'll receive an email on how to do this once you have confirmed that offer. And you'll be matched with a mentor based on as many preferences as we can. And then you will get to choose how you meet with your mentor as you like. So for those other strands and peer mentoring schemes that I mentioned, you sign up when you're here in September. So that's another avenue of support. If you have any questions about this scheme specifically, do get in touch with them. There's an email there, and they have a website. They also have an Instagram where you can see what type of events they do, and things they've gone up to provide support to the people on their schemes. Um, so that was a lot of information rattled off at you at the types of things we offer at Exeter. But now we get to move on to the fun part, which is asking the panel questions. So before we get into the questions, if I can ask the panel to introduce themselves, I will let's see who's first on my list. Corey, would you be able to start, please?
Yeah, no problem. Hi, my name is Corey. I study BSc Zoology with professional placement on the Penryn campus. I'm also a mature student, so that might be relevant for some of you if anybody's interested about that. I am going to nominate Isabel to introduce yourself next.
Hiya, I'm Isabel. I study liberal arts on the Streatham campus in Exeter, and I'm in my second year here. And I'm going to nominate Poppy.
Thank you. My name's Poppy. I'm third year BA Politics and Sociology student on the Streatham campus, and I am going to nominate Amelia.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm a second year studying English literature and philosophy, and I'm going to nominate Reese.
Hi there, I'm Reese. I'm a final year student based on the Stratham campus. I'm studying communications with business and entrepreneurship, and I'm Welsh. So, in case any of you are outside of England coming to Exeter, then I'm your perfect person to chat to about that. I will now pass on to who else we got? Shira.
Hi everyone. It took me a second to unmute my mic there. I'm Shaira. I think I'm the last person on the panel. I'm currently a final year student on Streatham campus and I study data science.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I don't think we've missed anyone, have we? I didn't count. I should have counted as we went. Amazing. Thank you. If I'm looking off to the side a lot, that's because I've got my questions on there, so apologies about that. In that case, we'll get started with questions. As I said, do feel free to put questions in the chat as we go, and we will prioritize those. Yeah. In that case, we'll get started with the first one. So the first question is, in what ways has your interest in extracurricular activities enabled you to meet new people? So perhaps that's a faith, a niche sport interest, or a craft. What extracurriculars have allowed you to meet new people? I don't know if you want to just jump in or put your hands up.
I can answer if you'd like.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I really wasn't sure at first when I joined which societies were going to be interesting to me. On the Penryn campus, for example, it's pretty good because you have a mix of Exeter and Falmouth students. So there's a really huge mix of different interests and different kinds of people from different backgrounds. I managed to get involved with some societies that were like more relevant to my degree course, so EcoSoc and Nature Watch. I actually run EcoSoc this year, which is pretty cool. But I also had the opportunity to get involved with some more creative societies as well, which was really cool because I got to meet all of the Falmouth arts students and everything. And yeah, it was really nice. It was just, I wasn't sure about stepping out of my comfort zone at first and kind of being like, well, these are art students, they're going to be better at it than I am. But I ended up going to a bunch of different like craft clubs and stuff like that. And it was really cool. I've met some really nice people.
That's lovely. Thank you. Does anyone else want to jump in off the back of that?
Yeah, so I ended up joining the Feminist Society, which I managed to meet a lot of people, not just through like discussion groups, but also some of the events that they run. So they run events that aren't just for society members. So don't feel like you have to join a society. I didn't in my first year. I was almost overwhelmed with the choice, but some of the things that they offer are like quiz nights at the pub, at our local student bar. And that was a really good way to meet like some of my closest friends. We ended up being put on the same team. We'd never met each other before, but somehow kind of going through the trials and tribulations of a pub quiz together does form a friendship. So yeah, no pressure to join a society. Like I said, you can still partake in the events even if you're not a member, but definitely a good way to meet people.
Brilliant, thank you. Amelia, I can see you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to say, like the other ambassadors have mentioned, it can be quite overwhelming knowing what to join because there are so many societies out there. But what I would mention is you can do a thing which is a termly membership. And so that means you're just involved with a society for a term. And so I did that for drama this year. And we all did a play together for one term. It was really great, met some lovely people. And yeah, I would say terming things is definitely a good idea because you can sort of dip in and out to different societies.
That's such an interesting, yeah, way of doing things. It makes complete sense. It means you can try a lot of things. Reese, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know this is targeted for like extracurricular activities as well. But when I first joined Exeter, I wasn't exactly sure which societies in terms of like perhaps like recreational sports or what have you. So I decided to join the Welsh Society, because I knew I'd probably be familiar with quite a lot of people there because in Wales, like everybody knows each other. And also Welsh is my first language as well. So it was a great chance to kind of be able to use my language in England as well at the same time while studying there. And it's by far become like my favorite society there. I became vice president in my second year of that society, and it became like a really close-knit, tight community there. And you can always expect like different types of activities and events that you'll do as a society together. Um, Even though like it's the Welsh Society, it's not exactly tailored towards like Welsh type of events, but you know, you have national holidays such as Dydd Gwl Dewi, St. David's Day, which you like do massive events for. But it's not just Welsh as well. They have societies such as like the Irish Society, Scotland Society, like numerous kind of societies based on perhaps where you live or where you're from, which is great if you're kind of feeling a bit apprehensive, and feel intimidated coming into a whole new country, perhaps. So it's great to kind of maybe start there and then kind of branch out from there, I would say.
That's a really good point. That yeah, there is a whole host of societies, whether it be because of faith, because of language, because of where you're from. There's a huge variety. Does anyone else want to add anything, or we can move on to the next question?
Yeah, just on the topic of faith societies, I am part of the student Christian movement at Exeter, which is really lovely. I mean, we've got lots of different faith societies of all different religions at Exeter, which is really great. But even within Christianity, there's loads of different societies. So we're not the only Christian society on campus, but it's a really lovely society, and it's been really nice to be able to be a part of a faith-related community. But we also have a chapel on campus, which is really nice. And the chapel's brilliant. So if you're wanting to get involved in anything faith-related at Exeter, there's loads of ways of doing it, and it's been really nice as a way to make friends at uni.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Amelia, jump back in, yeah.
Yeah, I've just seen Eleanor's question in the chat. Shall I respond to that now?
Yeah, more than welcome to. So yeah, Eleanor's asked, do you spend time with local people outside of university? So yeah, let's
Yeah,
go with that.
I was just going to say, the only ways I've really encountered local people has been through working. So you can get part-time jobs around Exeter, which I found has been really helpful. It's good to have a bit of money on the side. So I've definitely met some people through that. And then I'd also say we have some volunteering societies at Exeter. And so you'll like meet people through initiatives that are going on when you work with that volunteering.
Great points. Corey.
So in terms of like spending time with local people outside of university, I think in first year because it was quite daunting, I was still getting to grips with it. I spent a lot of time just on Penryn campus because I didn't really need to go really anywhere else because like all my lectures are here. In second year though, which I've just finished, I found that actually I did start branching out a little bit more because I lived off campus. I met more people locally. I've joined like a community union, which is pretty cool. I'm also part of a few like LGBT groups outside of the university, which is really nice because that means that I get to meet people who aren't just students, which as a mature student is quite nice. So yeah, no, there's definitely opportunities, and I know that in and around Exeter as well, there are loads of like local groups that you can definitely get involved with as a student. You're going to be so welcome to join those too. It doesn't just have to be stuff that's like run through the university, but it really does depend on like what you're interested in and what you're comfortable in doing. But yeah, it's been pretty good.
Amazing. Thank you. Does anyone else have any examples of maybe times that they've engaged with the community or any events like that? Poppy? Yeah.
This is kind of like sort of an add-on to the Feminist Society, but not exclusively. Every year in Exeter, they have a Reclaim the Night March, which brings loads of like kind of like feminist activist groups and like safer street groups together. And we do like a walk around town, and everyone's got signs, and they have like a sign making thing in one of the local like community halls before the march begins. That's a really good way to meet people, especially people who are passionate about the same things you are. So there's always stuff going on. We have Pride Parade, not even just last month. There's always like things happening in town, at least in Exeter, at least, that you can definitely meet local people at for sure.
Great points. Thank you. Shira.
Just before, like, I feel like everyone's made really great points, but I just want to say that locals generally get involved with university events as well. Like, if it's held by the university, like if it's the business school, it's a massive, like, let's say, for example, Diwali, tons of locals will get their kids or their teenagers just to get involved because Exeter's quite a small town. So for them to like expand beyond their horizons, it's a really good way to do that.
That's such a good point about it goes sort of both ways, doesn't it? With there's events for students to get involved with, but also there's lots of events that the local community can get involved with too. So brilliant points. Thank you. On this sort of note, I suppose I think this is quite a fun question about have there been any events that you've attended whilst at university that were perhaps surprising? So maybe you enjoyed it more than you thought you would, or you met people that you didn't think you would. And how did you find those events? Did anything surprise you about them? Is there one event that you went to that you went, that was where I made some friends? Who wants to jump in first?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
So going into, I mean, this is about societies again, but so going into Exeter, I'd always been part of more like kind of traditional choirs, singing kind of, traditional choral music. But when I came to Exeter, I saw that there were so many different choirs, and I was like, oh, maybe I should try something different. And so I went to the contemporary choir, and I absolutely loved it. And I'd never done anything really like that specifically before because the kind of music I'd sung had never been like pop or show tunes or anything like that. But I found it so enjoyable. And so I suppose that surprised me. But I think especially because you're able to get involved, especially in Welcome Week, in so many different society events totally for free, just go and try it out. I would recommend going and trying stuff out because it might surprise you what you actually end up loving.
Brilliant. That's lovely to hear. Thank you, Reese.
Yeah, so one of my actual friends from Welsh Society actually encouraged me to do this. So usually I'm used to playing rugby, but I'm also a football fan as well, but I've never actually played it. But the university do this thing called intramural sports, and I started playing intramural football with him and our team with the Grecian Society, which is a society based on the Exeter City Football Club. Um, so through that society, you'd go to things like some of the matches and there'd be discounts. Some of the matches we'd only pay like £5 to go watch, which usually the price of that is like £20 or so. We do events together, but our main event together would be playing intramural sports together. So this would usually be either like a 6-a-side or 11-a-side football game, and everyone ranges from like different types of standards. They could be a complete beginner, which I was, or they could be actually playing for the university in like the first team. But everyone treats each other with like such respect, and have the same standards, and it's just great fun. And again, like a brilliant way to just meet other friends who probably have similar interests to you as well. So yeah, it's just a very good experience, really.
Thank you very much. Cora, I think you were first.
Yeah, so this isn't actually an event that I went to, but it's one of my friends. When they were looking for their second year accommodation, I don't know if the same things get hosted on Streatham and the St. Luke's campuses, but in Penryn we have something called Meet Match Move, which is socials set up to try and help people who are trying to find roommates or look for someone who's looking for a roommate. And a friend of mine actually went to that, ended up having a fabulous time, and met their housemates that they've been living with this year there, and they've just been getting on really well. And if they hadn't gone to that session just kind of on a whim, hoping to find someone, I don't know if they would have met them. So yeah, so again, not me personally, but it was a really nice thing that was set up through the university, possibly through Res Life that you mentioned before. I can't remember. But yeah, that was like unexpected for them, certainly, and worked out really nicely, because I think there's a lot of, it can be really stressful figuring out who you want to live with, like in second or third year. So it really kind of helped to alleviate that quite a lot, which is nice.
That is a nice event to highlight, definitely. So thank you for that. Poppy.
Just before I begin, I know Amelia had her hand up, so I don't know if you still wanted to pitch in, Amelia.
No, I was just going to mention about social sports that Reese was sort of talking about. They also have it for like all the other sports like hockey, netball, and it's just really fun because if you're not like say sporty enough to be in a team, it's still really sociable and you can do it weekly. And yeah, I've really enjoyed being part of social netball. So
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'd missed that. Go for it, Poppy.
Yeah, so this is like technically an event and technically not. We obviously every year we have the Freshers Fairs, which kind of goes on for the whole of Freshers Week. Go to all these different stalls, and it's not just about joining society. Sometimes it's just about brands come. Amazon came this year, which was crazy. This is just another thing to highlight that sometimes you can be surprised by what you see at events. So even though I didn't go necessarily to join a society, when I went during Freshers Week to get my student ID just from the Great Hall, I ended up making a friend in the line waiting for my ID. And I ended up living with her in my second year. So it's just a sort of like a reminder that you can make friends anywhere, especially in Freshers Week, because Freshers Week isn't your only chance to make friends. Friendships happen all the time. You meet people in seminars all the time in your third year that you never even knew was on your course. So that's just one of those examples. You can make friends anywhere, even waiting in line.
That's such a good point. Reese.
Yeah, I was just going to snowball quickly on that point just made, how in Freshers Week you know it's kind of expected that you're going to meet like all your friends then and there, and then after that, if you haven't made any, then you know you don't exactly know what you're doing. That's completely far from the truth. Because the university actually do this thing as well called Re-Welcome Week at the start of January, where maybe if there was a society you wanted to try out or certain sport, you can try that again in the following term at the start of term 2, I believe. And they do this every year. So perhaps maybe there was a society you tried in term 1, it wasn't really your forte, didn't quite like it. You can always try again then the following term with a different type of society or different type of sport. And even then, you can try again in your second year, and from there really.
That's such a good point. I think a lot of pressure is always put on things like Freshers' Fair and Welcome Week, but there is no limit to you going. You can keep going. It's obviously aimed at like the newer students, but you can go in your second, third, fourth years. So that's a good point. Amelia.
yeah, I've just seen Louis' question in the chat.
Or we'll come back to that one if that's all right.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Thank you for spotting it. We've got another one that's just come in. It's a little bit more of a sort of a deeper question, I suppose. With when meeting friends at Exeter and coming to Exeter, what have been your experiences about the common misconceptions of Exeter Uni and like the stereotypes of people that you meet? Have you come across that sort of thing before? How have you dealt with that? So Corey.
I think a lot of that is just very dependent on kind of like the circles you run in. I don't know what it's like at Streatham or St. Luke's for this. I know that those campuses tend to get more of that, but I have had people at open days asking me about this. I genuinely find that Penryn campus is quite chill. Um, yeah, there's slightly less of that stereotype of like, oh, it's Exeter, we're a Russell Group university, or like you just don't really get that. The majority of people that I've met have been very down to earth. Most people are there because they're actually, interested in what they want to study or want to kind of learn more about what's happening on the campus. So yeah, I think particularly for like some of the bioscience degrees as well, because we're just kind of out in the mud quite a lot. Like it's harder to kind of keep pretenses around you, but no, it's been pretty calm. We don't even really get any issue from like the wider community or anything being like, oh, students. That's not really true. It's just kind of a stereotype.
That's really lovely to hear that that's been your experience. Poppy, I think you were next. Sorry, there's not numbers on the hands like there usually is.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, the best way to kind of tackle these stereotypes is like head on. And it was actually a misconception that I was worried about before I came to this university. I'm from a state school in East London. I thought, it's going to be full of like kids from private school. Everyone's going to be posh. I'm not going to fit in. And whilst obviously there are people who do come from private school, class divide isn't really felt within the student community because there are so many people and we're not defined by our backgrounds economically or where we went to school. A lot of my friends went to private school, and yes, their schooling experience was different to mine, but that doesn't mean that our friendship has an imbalance or there's a dynamic. And also, I would say we're quite a modern university. A lot of other Russell groups, and I don't mean to dunk on competitors, but they do have, like Durham and Oxford, rituals where they have their gown and their cap and they have these welcome ceremonies. We're not like that. And I think that's really good at kind of integrating everyone because we've got a lot of international students too. So, yes, the stereotypes are there. And yes, there may be some people like that. But I was definitely totally misinformed because when I came to university, I realized it's just like anywhere else. There's all sorts of people. And that's all I've got to say on the matter.
No, I think that's such a fair comment. Thank you. Isabel.
Yeah, I mean, similar experience to Poppy in the sense that I am from a little state school in Cornwall, but different because I didn't have any idea about any stereotypes about Exeter when I first came. Maybe this is because Cornwall is such a little bubble and you're so like sheltered, and I didn't know lots of people whose older siblings were at university, so you don't really hear about like what the reputations of universities are as much. But so yeah, coming to Exeter, I found that it was something that like it didn't really reflect my experience. I mean, X is a big uni. Um, you basically have every kind of person here, so no matter what kind of person you are, you're probably going to find your people. Um, but that's something I've really liked about it is like it is a big uni and there's lots of different types of people here, so you're going to meet people from all different backgrounds. And that's definitely been my experience. So yeah, I mean, I've always felt really like welcome and I found that it's really easy for me to fit in at Exeter. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about any of the stereotypes.
That's lovely to hear. And yeah, I think you summed up all that really well there. It's a large campus. You'll come across all sorts of people, but there are so many opportunities for you to meet the people who fit in with you or you fit in with. So thank you for those answers. I can see we've got more questions coming on the chat, so thank you for your questions. Keep it up. It's really lovely to see. We'll go back to Louis' question now about how do societies based around skills such as sports or art handle having people of varying skill levels? That's a brilliant question. I don't know. We touched a bit on intramural sports. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in. Yeah, go for it, Shira.
I play a lot of sports. Like something I've always enjoyed, starting from school. But at university, I played some football first year. I played still play a bit of badminton. and I have housemates who play hockey. So I have quite a broad range of knowledge on this particular subject. My experience personally has been that since there's so many people and the societies are huge, you'll have about 500 people in a society, let's say playing hockey. There'll be certain teams which are highly competitive, they compete with other universities, but not everything is like that. You'll also simultaneously have social sports teams that play just over the weekend for fun, or intramural teams where you play for your society and you compete against other, like it could be academic societies or other sports, but not everything is about competitions. A lot of it can also just be about being social, getting a nice little workout, just making friends.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Amelia.
Yes, so with the more competitive sports and with sports teams, they usually involve a trial. So at the beginning of the year, you'll go to a trial, and then, if you succeed, then you'll get through to the teams. But if you don't, there's also social sport. And social sport usually has a few leagues to differentiate between skills within that, because it literally goes from people who've never played the sport before to people who are quite competitive. So that's quite good. And then I also would say, try not to be too disheartened if you don't get into a team, because there are also local teams that people play for. So a few of my friends, they play for the local hockey club, and actually quite a few students do that. And it's really great for sort of like middling level of sport.
That's such an interesting point. Yeah, bringing back in that getting involved in the community as a student can look like different things. So that's really interesting. Thank you. Reese.
Yeah, Shira and Amelia pretty much covered that really well. I was just going to mention what Amelia had mentioned before about trials. Usually before trials, we have training sessions. So you're not just completely just chucked into a trial and then they kind of mark you and you kind of put into a selected team then based on how well you performed, or your like past experience in playing whichever sport that might be. So usually during these training sessions, they take place during Welcome Week, and then again in re-Welcome Week in your second term. And usually these are maybe like 3 to 4 slots in Welcome Week. And it depends on how many times you want to go to those. I think the more you attend, the more likely you are to kind of feel more comfortable in that setting then, and then compete in the trials and go from there. But yeah, just a little note really that there are training sessions just for trials.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We've got another question in the chat from Eleanor. How did you go about finding a part-time job? Poppy, you're straight in there with this one.
Oh yes, I'm very passionate about it. So I've done seasonal work for the Waterstones in town, which has been lovely. And from my experience, I would say the first things first is obviously sorting out your CV. Doesn't matter a lot of the time if you've not had prior experience. A lot of the stuff in town is going to be retail or hospitality. If you need help with your CV, we have the career zone at the university, which can kind of help you map out, what you want to write. It's a student town, and they are always in dire need of student staff, because when the older students leave, they've then got all of these gaps to fill. So there's not a shortage of jobs. And also, what I would say about the employers in town, because we've got a lot of chains, a lot of independents. If you have come and seen Exeter before, I can't speak for Penryn, but in Exeter, it's like quite a sizable town with quite a lot of shops, and they are all very aware that they are mainly employing students, so they're quite flexible with their time. I've always worked alongside my studies, and I've never found that I can only do one or the other. They blend quite well together. And obviously the student ambassador scheme, so this university is also an employer, so they are very mindful of your student time. But yeah, get on your CV and just apply everywhere, because someone will take you, and that's that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Corey.
Yeah, in Penryn, there's a lot of opportunities for employment. Local businesses will normally be quite clear if they don't want to hire students, so you can immediately get a sense of like who's going to be more welcome for applications and who isn't. But there are lots of opportunities to work on campus in Penryn. There's the campus shop, there's the Stannery bar. You can work in the library, in the career zone. You can do ESA work like what I'm doing today. And what's really great about that is, again, they know that you're a student, they know that you've got lectures and assessments, so you can book your shifts around your studies, which is really convenient. I do also have friends who have found work with local businesses and stuff, particularly if you have a car with you in second year on Penryn campus, because you can't really have one in first year. Normally, some of the local like supermarkets and like restaurants and stuff are normally looking for drivers, which is nice because that's normally evening work too. So yeah, lots of stuff. And the career zone, again, like on Streatham and St Luke's, can point you in the right direction, which is really helpful.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Reese.
Yeah, again, just to snowball. When you're at the University of Exeter, you usually get a newsletter, maybe like every month or a few weeks, from the career zone, just about what's on. And this will basically just give you heads up on employability events where you can meet employers and career events. They also have schemes such as the Student Business Partnership and the Student Campus Partnership scheme as well, which basically just connects you to like paid working opportunities with recommended employers. And usually these roles like cover multiple areas, like including like business development, data analytics, IT, whichever one you're kind of wanting to pursue in the future. They usually have one tailored for that. Um, Again, the ESA scheme as well. So there's a lot of internal opportunities that you can do at Exeter, not just external as well, to find work. The Exeter University also does a scheme called Professional Pathways as well. But there's more information about that online, or I could put it in the chat as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, great highlighting of professional pathways, and there's lots of opportunities to get involved in those extracurriculars to build your CV whilst also working. So yeah, that's a great shout. Corey, jump back in.
I forgot to mention, it's really good. If anybody's ever used like LinkedIn before, the university has something called Handshake, which is very similar to LinkedIn, but all of the kind of opportunities and internships and everything that get listed on there have been vetted by the university, which is just like an extra level of reassurance. But I believe there's occasionally part-time work or apprenticeship kind of esque things listed on there that you can do over summer, or like internships. Occasionally, at least in my department, you might have researchers who list like research assistant roles and things on there too, which is really helpful. Again, works around your studies. You should hopefully have like career lecture sessions, which will like show you how to use Handshake and stuff as well. It's a really useful resource. I've definitely found opportunities through there before. It's great.
Amazing, thank you. I'm just going to add something on to this as well. About Exeter has something called Access to Internships, which is it's a competitive scheme, but there's a limited pot of funding. If you find an internship that is unpaid, Exeter might be able to pay a bit of money for your employer to, you know, make sure you can live whilst you are undertaking that internship. Reese.
Yeah, I was also just going to mention, as Corey mentioned, Handshake. So Handshake and the Career Zone do something called Ask an Alum. So this is basically like an application form, and you can just basically feel more informed about your career options, especially before like the summer break or entering the new term. And it's basically where you kind of just get really good advice, like custom advice usually, and speak with your career mentor about a wide range of organizations, sectors, and countries as well. So basically, if you're kind of looking for a certain type of internship that you'd like to apply for, or a certain placement, if you're taking on a placement year, you can talk to an alumni, see if they did something very similar to you. Usually you'll be paired with someone that perhaps did a degree similar to you or the same degree, or wants to go or is doing a certain career that you plan on doing in the future as well. So yeah, just another really good resource that the University of Exeter have on show.
Brilliant, thank you. One final thing that I'll add from me, and a cheeky plug from stuff that we do with my team, is we run something called Careers Insight Week, which is free online. You can look on our YouTube channel. we record panels similar to this where you meet alumni who have done specific specific degree programs and then gone on to different careers, and they talk about their experience. So if you want more information about how to find further work other than part-time jobs going forward, there is also those opportunities as well. That's not quite part-time work, but something that you might be wanting to look at when considering Exeter as well as a university. Brilliant. Thank you very much for all those answers. Do keep putting questions in the chat, audience. That would be lovely. We'll move on to another question then. This one is, have there been points in your university journey that you've struggled with making friends, and what did you do to combat this? Did you use any of the things we've talked about today? Other than societies, did you seek support? Or how did you go about sort of getting that opportunity to talk to new people and make friends? Corey.
So coming into education after having taken a break was daunting. I'm a good kind of 6 or 7 years older than most of my peers, which kind of comparing like 18 to 25 when you start, that's quite a big gap. In our first week for biosciences, we had something called Research Week, where basically you do like a mock project with a group of people you've never met before, and they kind of throw you all together and go, do this thing, get it done. And you go, oh, okay, what am I doing? And I really struggled to connect with the group that I had been paired with. They were all quite different from me. I'm neurodiverse as well, which is hard at points. So that was really tricky, especially like in my first week, I started feeling really daunted. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What have I done? And then the first week finished, and then we started getting into lectures, and I just found my people. I ended up making really good friends with everyone else who was sitting along the front row of the lecture theatres, because we all had access technology and we were all kind of bonding over the fact that like, oh, you need to use like a microphone as well. Isn't that funny? And then from that point onwards, I kind of finally relaxed into it, because I thought like, actually, the fact that I'm a little bit older doesn't really change anything. I will find people that have similar interests to me and that I can get along with. So I guess what I would say to take from that is, if at first you are struggling with it, don't lose hope, because you will have so many opportunities to meet your people. And like, your university cohort is massive. There are so many people on campus, and there's such a high opportunity that you will find the people that you get along with. Even if the first kind of couple of weeks are a little bit rough, it will smooth out.
That's some really brilliant advice. And I think, yeah, highlighting again that it's not just through societies and things, it is through your actual academic life that you'll meet people. So thank you for that. Isabel.
Yeah, so I mean, when I first came to Exeter, I was in halls on campus, and me and my flatmates were hanging out a lot, because that's like pretty common. You know, if you get flatmates that you get on with, oftentimes you end up seeing them a lot. But even though we got on, we weren't super similar people. And so I found when I came back in the second term, people were starting to find their own friend groups, and I felt a bit left behind, and I kind of hadn't found my own people in the way that my other flatmates had. And even though I had them, and they were really lovely, we just weren't, they weren't my people. And so I had a short period of time where I was a bit like, oh, I don't know that I've got enough friends here. And I was really nervous about going to societies, because I thought, oh, I've missed that boat. Like, it's all happened in Welcome Week, and everyone, it's a closed shop now. Everyone's totally like knows each other in these societies now, and it would be weird for me to show up halfway through the year. And actually, what I found is when I got up the courage to start going to some societies, they were so like happy to have me and so welcoming. And so many societies, especially with Exeter, we've got loads. Oftentimes the fact that we've got so many means that a lot of them are smaller, and so they're really like happy to have more people coming. And so I mean, yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely don't think that the societies are something you have to get involved in straight away. Most societies are really welcoming throughout the whole year. And they're a great way to make friends, and I've made most of my friends through societies.
That's lovely to hear. And yeah, it's those first few weeks are hard. Like you're moving away from home possibly for the first time. You're in such an unfamiliar place. And like people always say to you, everyone's in the same boat, but it's hard to actually take that on, I think, when you're in that situation. Does anyone else want to jump in, or I can see you've got some more questions, so we can move on if anyone else wants to add anything. Cool, we can move on to the next one. So there's a question about how to apply to being a student ambassador. And they've asked about, can you apply via a specific route or sports route, or academic route? So perhaps someone can just talk a little bit more about what that means to be an ambassador, and the types of things that you're doing like this evening. And then, yeah, Corey.
Yeah, so I found out about the student ambassador scheme, I think during kind of like my first few weeks of university. I'd obviously spoken to ambassadors at open days before, and I hadn't really realized that they were ambassadors. I was just like, oh, it's a student. But yeah, the Exeter Student Ambassador Scheme is something that you can apply for. You go through a series of kind of group interviews and a couple of sort of like talk through applications and stuff like that. And then based upon how well you do in those, you will either be offered a ambassador position or not. And then if you don't get it that year, you can apply the next year. But yeah, it is a job. You get trained to do it. It can be quite competitive. As far as I'm aware, there isn't like a specific sport route or academic route that you can go through to kind of get onto the program. It's very much dependent on like how comfortable and effective you would be at kind of communicating to prospective students and young people in the community and things like that. But I know people who have gotten onto the scheme because they have a variety of qualities, not like through a particular route, but because they are very involved in sports, they make a good ambassador for that particular thing. So there are lots of qualities I'm sure many of you have that would mean that you would be a fantastic ambassador. It's a little competitive. So if you're thinking about it, I recommend signing up for it, though. It's really good.
Brilliant. Thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which is, have any of you been part of the peer support program? And if so, how did you find it? So have any of you been involved in that scheme? If not, that's fine. What I will say on this one, if you have any questions about the peer support scheme, we can put their email again in the chat. But they have an email, you can ask them questions. And like I said, the different schemes have different sign-up times. So certain ones you can sign up beforehand, and others will be when you're a student here. And if you want to know the types of things that they get up to, their Instagram is a really good place to see those images. It's a bit, it's still formal, but it's a bit more informal about what students have been up to. It is run by the staff who run the peer mentoring scheme. So yeah, sorry that we don't have an answer specifically to that question, but it is a good scheme, and I definitely would recommend you look into it if you're interested in studying with Exeter, and fall into one of those categories. I can't believe the time. We're sort of coming to the end now, so I think we'll do one final question, and then wrap up. So this is sort of a nice general, a nice closing question. So knowing what you know now, do you have any advice that you would have given your past self that others might find useful? Don't know who wants to jump in first. Corey, go for it.
Me again. Hi. I think something I found very daunting at university, not even just socially, but it did play into it, was like that kind of sense of imposter syndrome, where it's like, I don't know if I should be here. I feel like everyone knows more than me, or they've progressed further than me, or things like that. It sucks. It's a horrible feeling. But from all of the conversations I've had with academics, everybody gets it. Like, and it's not real. It's not real. You're just feeling nervous about kind of fitting in and getting to a particular point. So I would say if you're feeling like anxious about potentially not reaching like a certain point, or not having enough friends, or not having met enough people, or not fitting in, I would say that it's not like a real reflection on how you're doing. You are probably doing much better than you're giving yourself credit for. And also, like, be patient with yourself, like, be gentle with yourself. It's a lot of change, a lot all at once. Yeah, give yourself time, get some rest.
No, that's a brilliant sentiment. Yeah, you can't do well in your academic studies if you're not doing well in yourself. So Brilliant. Thank you. Amelia. You are you able to mute? There you go.
Sorry, you cut out. Did you say me?
Oh yeah, sorry if you didn't hear me there.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. I was just gonna say, like, obviously we've been saying there's like so much to get involved with at university, which is super exciting. But I think, like, so when I first joined, I was sort of trying to try everything, and I was running around all the time, rushing about, meeting lots of new people, which was really exciting. But I found that I knew like lots of people, but not really well. And so I think that can be quite tough if you like spread yourself too thin. Because I was thinking like, oh, like how many people would I actually have like a deep conversation with? And so I sort of like invested more in like the things that I was like really enjoying, and then got to know people a bit better. So I would say it's so fun meeting lots of people, but like, I don't know, maybe don't spread yourself too thin.
No, I think that's excellent advice. There's so much to do. And it, like I said earlier, you're encouraged to do so much in those first weeks. So absolutely right. Finding that balance is hard, but it's yeah, something to be aware of. Thank you. Poppy.
Yeah, just sort of quite similar to Amelia actually. Is like you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Um, it's really encouraged in, Freshers Week to like get outside your comfort zone, and that's all well and good, but also don't make yourself do anything you're just not comfortable with. Um, I've never been one for nightlife, and I in my first year I did go out. You don't have to make friends that way. There are so many things you can do during the day and still be in bed at 9 p.m. And you still have friends. You just don't go out drinking, and there's not like that peer pressure for that either. If you don't go out, no one's judging you. So, and also, I would tell my first year self, join a society, stop being lazy. I was so lazy first year. And I kind of regret not having begun with a society. So yeah, do that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Isabel.
Yeah, I mean, this one is slightly specific to my course, because I'm a liberal arts student, which for those of you who don't know what liberal arts is, it's sort of an interdisciplinary humanities degree. So it means that I study lots of different subjects. And there are a few degrees like that at Exeter. We offer quite a few combined honours options, and I think natural sciences is quite similar. But so as someone who didn't necessarily have like, I mean, I pick a major, right? So my major is religion. But I think because I wasn't on one course like lots of people were, I was a bit nervous to get involved in like course-based societies. I mean, it's like Corey was saying, that kind of feeling of like imposter syndrome, because when I looked at like the religion and theology society page, it seemed like everyone was just doing that course, and I was like, oh, I'm not, I can't be part of this because it's not like for me. When actually, if I could give myself some advice, it would be get to know the people you're on your course with, and even though I'll be seeing them less than they see each other because I study lots of different subjects, it would have still been worthwhile to actually make an effort to get to know them and go to some of their socials and stuff. So I would say get to know your course mates, go to whatever your course is, go to their society events. And it doesn't matter if that's, if you're doing an interdisciplinary degree like me, combined honours, whatever it is, get involved. It's definitely worth doing to get to know the people that you're studying with.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I think that is all we've got time for, questions wise. So I'll draw everyone's attention back to the PowerPoint. If I can change the slide. There we go. So thank you for all your questions today, and thank you, ambassadors, for answering those questions so elegantly. Unfortunately, all of our live sessions have now finished for the year, but you can access all of the previous sessions that we've had on our University Discover University YouTube channel. That's a screenshot of all the videos that are there currently, and this one will be shortly uploaded. So you're more than welcome to watch all of those. We answer similar questions, completely different types of questions in all of those. So do give a watch if you're wanting to. Are more than welcome to leave us this evening. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your questions, and we hope to see you soon. So thank you very much, everyone.